Welcome, everyone. My name is Dave Hart, and I'll be your host this evening for the Einstein Retirement Workshop's Social Security Filing Strategy Workshop. We're going to do some pre-workshop trivia if I can just get you to help me out with a quick audio check. So we've got quite a few channels on here tonight. Probably the Facebook, YouTube, a bunch of others. But those are the two that I'm most concerned about audio-wise. If you're on one of those, either Facebook or YouTube, if you could give me a thumbs up or hear you great or anything like that. I'm in Pennsylvania this evening, so I'd love to hear what state you're in. We normally get people from all over the country. It's always interesting to hear where people are from. But just use your chat function and give me a heads up that you can hear me, and we will get started. Now, we usually have most people join in the next 10 minutes or so. So if you're on now, you get treated to some trivia if we can get this done quickly. Just there you go. Pamela, thank you. And you are on Facebook, it looks like. Hello from Delaware. Great. I grew up in Maryland, so very familiar with Delaware. Another Facebook, Karen. There's a YouTube, Vicky. So hear you great on YouTube. Thank you so much. It looks like we are in great shape. So I'm going to ask our tech team to pull up trivia. This is going to be easy. They're all multiple choice. So you can use the chat function just like you just did. Just going to be A, B, C, or D. Thanks, Connie. Love to hear where you're from if you want to tell me. Just to state. You don't have to give me your address. Thanks. That would be awesome. Okay, here's trivia. Let's start with the first question. All right. How are the first three numbers from your Social Security number derived? So everybody has 9 numbers, right? 3 numbers and 2 numbers and 4 numbers. Those first 3 come from someplace. Is it A, the zip code of your birth city? B, the zip code of the issuing Social Security office? C, random. D, they represent the state where you were born. A, B, C, or D. Just throw in your answers into the chat. Rochester, New York, Texas, Marysville, Ohio, awesome. Connie, Texas is a big state. There you go. Another Texas. Thanks, Richard. All right. Just throw in your answers into the chat section. A, B, C, or D. There's a D. So A is zip code of your birth city. B is issuing the zip code of the issuing Social Security office. C is random. D is the state where you were born. Got some A's in there, some D's, some B's. All over. Cynthia's in New York. Thank you. All right. Give you another second or two to give us an answer. D. I see some more. Oh, there's another D. All right. Interesting. All right. Drum roll. Here we go. It's B. It's the actual zip code of the issuing Social Security office. So the place where you actually showed up and got your Social Security card. For me, I was 14. My mother drove me because I got a job. And to actually get employed, I needed a Social Security card. So that zip code of that office was the first 3 numbers. That represents the first 3 numbers of my Social Security number. Isn't that interesting? All right, B. Next question. Why have more than 40,000 people claimed 078051120 as their personal Social Security number? Is it A, the number was stolen and sold over 40,000 times? B, the Social Security machine got stuck and simply kept printing out the same number 40,000 times in a row? Or C, it was a copy of a real Social Security card number that was included in a wallet that was sold at Woolworths to thousands of people? A, B, or C? This is an interesting one. I think this one stumps more people than any other one I have. JP, glad you have sound. Thanks. Glad to hear you're in Connecticut. Terry's in New Jersey. Pamela says C. That's that's the odd but true category. So does is it Matt or Memt? Cynthia says B. JP says C. Interesting. All right, we'll give it a couple more seconds here. All right. A, B, or C. Last chance. There's an A. Thanks, Terry. All right, here we go. Here's the answer. It's C. We'll put this under the hi. It looks like Teresa from South Carolina. Hi, Rick in California. Great to have you guys here. C is we'll put it in the strange but true category. This is an actual true story. Happened in the 70s. This was an ad exec that was putting together a wallet package to advertise it. You know how they like to put pictures and stuff in. He thought, oh, we'll add a Social Security card. Took his borrowed, I guess, his assistant's Social Security card. I don't know why he didn't use his own. Maybe I do. And sent it to the printer. And the printer said, oh, this must be what they want in there, and copied it verbatim. And then it got sold tons of times. And some people just said, oh, this looks real, because it was. All right. Under what circumstances can you get a new Social Security number issued to you? A, hi, Kathy from California. A, religious or cultural issues and with certain numbers. B, you're experiencing ongoing issues after being the victim of identity theft. C, your number enables people to harass or endanger your life. D, all or any of the above. A, B, C, or D. Religious or cultural issues with certain numbers, that's A. You're experiencing ongoing issues of being a victim of identity theft is B. Your number enables people to harass or endanger your life, that's C. D is all the above. A, B, C, or D. Take a quick guess. Bunch of B's. Interesting. Hi, Mike from St. Louis. Glad to have you here. There's a D. There's a D. There's a CD. I don't know what CD is. Leslie might be listening to music right now. Terry is a B. All right. I'll give you 10 seconds here for any other answers. There's a B. There's another B. There's another B. B seems to be a popular consensus tonight. Let's take a look. Are you ready? Here we go. It's D. Any of those circumstances get you a new Social Security number. Now, that gets you a new number from the Social Security Administration and the IRS, but you've got to deal with your employer and your creditors. That's on you. All right. What year was the first Social Security benefit paid? Now, I'll give you a little bit of background here. The Social Security law was introduced and signed into office in 1935. So is it A, 1936 for $28.17, B, 1937 for $19.67, or C, 1940 for $22.54? Is it A, B, or C? A, 1936, B, 1937, D, 1940. Take your guess. If you're just joining us now, my name's Dave Harden. I'll be your host this evening. We're just doing some pre-workshop trivia. We're going to get started in just a moment, right at the top of the hour here with the workshop. Just have some fun with us. Use your chat function. I see some C's. Interesting. Some A's. I wonder if we'll get any. There's a B. We have got every number covered here. Lots and lots of people have covered all numbers. A, B, and C are all covered in general. I don't know if we have a consensus. Maybe B is the consensus here. There's another. Yeah, it's a lot of B's. Okay, let's take a look at the answer. It's C, 1940. Now, to be fair, it may have misled you when I told you 1935 was the year that it was brought into office because Social Security is self-funded. So the money that goes in goes out to pay the benefits. So they had to have enough time to collect enough money to consistently be able to pay benefits without starting them and stopping them and starting them and stopping them. So that's why it's C. Now, I don't know if I have time for one more. Let me take a look at the clock. No, I really don't here. Okay, let me pull up the actual workshop. It just turned to the top of the hour. Thanks for joining us. I'll have my tech team pull it up. There it is. All right, let me, before I get started, just do a little bit of housekeeping. Again, my name is Dave Harden. I'll be your host. I'll do a little bit more formal introduction in just a moment. This is a great time to go to the restroom. People ask often how long this is take. In fact, somebody messaged me yesterday saying, "How long is the workshop?" Um, uh, I always find that interesting because it's not specific. I will tell you, I'm a human being, so sometimes I go a little long, sometimes I go a little faster. Typically, this rounds out at about an hour and 20 minutes. At the end of our workshop, we always offer and do a Q&A, a question and answer period. I'm going to do that this evening as well. You'll get a chance to ask your questions. I will answer them. Here's what would help me do that. You have to ask the questions, but officially, we won't start that until the end of the workshop, but you don't have to wait till then to start asking your question. You can log them in the chat function, just like we did during trivia. Just type them in. That will help me immensely. Hi, Bonnie. That will help me immensely because at the end of the workshop, we'll be able to start the questions without any pause or waiting 5 minutes for people to start typing and figure out what they want to ask. If you know what you want to ask it away. We'll get to it at the end. If you're not sure and you find something spurs a question on in the middle of the workshop, take that opportunity to type it in as well. We'll get to as many of those as we possibly can. We almost always get to all of them. Okay, that being said, let's get started here. All right, my name is Dave Harden. I am a registered financial consultant, RFC. That's a designation for retirement planning and asset management in retirement through the International Association of Registered Financial Consultants. I also carry the NSSA. That's the only college accredited designation for Social Security and taxes in the country. Little less than 2,000 advisors have it. I'm stunned at that, always stunned at that. I think every advisor should have this. I don't know how you do retirement planning or tax planning without some expertise in it. And if you're going to get some expertise, a college accredited designation is the best way to do that. I'm also the author of the Social Security Workbook. I've been doing Social Security stuff for a really long time. During that period, I've learned a lot, and I've thrown it into this workbook. And we've revised it and revised it. It's gotten lots and lots and lots of 5-star reviews. We will get you that at the end of the workshop, one way or another. So bear with us. That being said, I also own a registered investment advisory firm, City Center Advisors. We're located, well, we have a couple locations in the U.S. I've got offices in Colorado, in Michigan. We do business in about 43 states. Offices these days don't mean much. Our clients are everywhere. Some of them moved there after they started doing business with us. Others chose us because of the way that we do business before that. That being said, I want to set you at ease. I am not here tonight to talk about investments. Not here to tell you what stocks to buy or what bonds to buy. We're not going to do that. This is a disclosure that I'm required to give because of my license as a Series 65 advisor. I'm a fiduciary advisor. The SEC requires me to disclose that to you, whether I'm talking about Social Security or investments. Tonight, it's about Social Security. That's what we're going to concentrate and hone in on that's what we're going to spend our time on so you can rest at ease. Okay, let's get to why we're here. Why are we here? Why is Social Security such a hot topic? Every day, 10,000 baby boomers turn 65. It's this year, I just read, it's close to 11,000. And that's going to continue for quite some time. This doesn't disappear. Now, we don't have, you go 10 years out, we don't really have, well, 12 years out, we don't have 10,000 people turning 65 every day. It's 9. But it's going to continue for a really long time and a lot of people. In the last year, that was 70,000 a week, 280,000 a month. Last year, 3.64 million of us turned 65. It's a lot of people, and they're all interested in Medicare, in Social Security, in what do I do about retirement? So, what does Social Security mean? What does it mean to us? Well, here's what I think is even more interesting. 65% of retired middle income Americans derive more than 50%, half of their retirement income comes from Social Security. It represents a huge part of our lives financially when we retire. And since 1985, American corporations have eliminated more than 84,000 pensions. Now, I don't mean 84,000 people lost their pension. That would be bad. I mean 84,000 corporations stopped offering pensions. Some of those individual corporations had more than 100,000 employees. A huge portion of baby boomers, just like you and me, watched their parents and their grandparents retire with pensions only to find out that wasn't going to happen to us. Now, don't misunderstand me. If you have a pension, that's wonderful, but most of us don't. And then this is, I think, the most disturbing factor of all. 46.1% of Americans currently pass away with less than enough to pay for their own funeral. They're broke. Now, I'm not talking about, certainly this includes those that lived their lives basically broke, the working poor, but I'm talking about many of these people. This is half of us. Many of them started their retirement with not tens, but hundreds of thousands, maybe more, in things like 401ks and IRAs. But they ended up broke. Now, if that doesn't send a chill down your spine, I don't know what will, but what it should send down your spine is a huge question. How did that happen? How are so many people ending up with nothing when they pass away, or quite frankly, oftentimes long before they pass away? The answer is going to be interesting. I'll get into it in a little while, but we're going to talk about that. Now, people ask, do you insure your home? Of course you do. It would be fiscally irresponsible not to. Overwhelming loss if you have a fire or a flood or something like that. How about your car? I live in Pennsylvania, as I said before. I don't have a choice. And then, do you insure your health? Well, if you're here on this workshop asking about how Social Security works, you qualify. Certainly, you qualify for Social Security. Well, if you do, you also qualify for Medicare. And that is a government-sponsored health insurance program that you've paid for. You paid for dearly, by the way. And then, of course, do you insure your retirement? The answer is you have. You've paid a ton of money for Social Security. And it is that. It is a government-sponsored retirement program. But a lot of people say, well, hold on, it's not an insurance program, Dave. Yeah, it is. A lot of people say it isn't that. It's people pay it, but I mean, it's really, and it's an entitlement program, right? No, it's an entitlement program. If you work 5 years, you get permanently disabled and you wind up on Social Security disability, you got the benefit of an entitlement program. But if you work 40 years paying into a system that may or may not pay you all your money back, that's not an entitlement program. You earned this benefit and you paid dearly for it. Business Insider magazine about 5 years ago did a study. A typical couple, $50,000 income each. That it said that over their lifetime, between Social Security and Medicare, they had contributed $742,000 to Social Security and Medicare. That's a lot of money. Some of you are just going, "Hey, can I have that back?" And I'll skip the rest. I get it, but that doesn't work that way. All right, what's the risk of outliving your income? This is census data. This is from the US Census. If you're a single male age 65, you have a 50% chance, 1 in 2 chance, that you're living to 85. I don't think anybody's shocked at that. You have a 25% chance you're living to 92. That's a 1 in 4 chance you're living to 92. If you're a single female, you have a 50% chance that you're living to 88, a 1 in 4 chance you're living to 94. And if you're a couple, two people who care about one another, the male has a 50% chance. Guys, listen to this, a 50% chance of living to 92. And the female has a 50% chance of living to 97. And you might ask, how in the world? But it's not very complex to figure this out. Look, my wife, it's probably 6 months ago, I had a sister that died of skin cancer in 2015, my only sister. And I loved her dearly. We went a long time, long time talking to her while she was sick and ill. We lived several states. She lived in the state I grew up in Maryland. I did not live there, and we were long distance. But we went. We visited each other, and actually, I visited her. She wasn't able to. She got very sick. They couldn't figure out what it was, and then eventually they figured it out, but it was too late. It had spread to her bones and then to other places, and it was over. And within a pretty short couple of months, she was gone. But we were those kids that ran out in the summer. First day of summer, we would go out and get burned intentionally because, that's how you got tan eventually. The quicker you got burnt and got it over with, the quicker you could get tan. We were just stupid. I don't know if we were stupid because everybody seemed to do it when we were kids. I'm sure people here know what I'm talking about. Well, now, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, my wife insisted that I go to a dermatologist because she saw something on my back that didn't look right. She thought it was weird, and so I went. Now, I go regularly once a year, but she wouldn't wait till our regular appointment. She wanted me to get in. Turns out it was a mole. A little weird mole, but a mole nonetheless, nothing dangerous. And, I go back on my regular appointment now. That's happening next month. So no big deal. But it's that kind of relationship where she cares enough about me to push me to go to the doctor when something doesn't seem right, when I get a cough that doesn't sound right, when I get a rattle in my chest, those kind of things. When husbands and wives or couples point those out to each other, it makes a difference in how long we live and how long we stay healthy. And look at the difference here, 92 and 97. I got to tell you, that is a huge difference in what most of us thought. I've been doing this a long time. I started in the late 70s. And, back then we used to plan for people to live maybe to 80 if we were really pushing 85. These days, you just can't do that. It's not reasonable. It's not, you can't act as a fiduciary and tell somebody to plan to what is likely way shorter than they're going to live. But it still happens all the time. I still see people come in that have plans that don't last that long. This is Ethel Carterham. She's from England. She's 100. I think next month she turns 116. Excuse me. She's not young. What's interesting about this is that she's a long line of people. Sister Ana Lucas, Connie Tanaka. These are 116, 119. Tamiko Tuka, 116. Before her, by the way, was a woman who was in Jamaica who was 122. We're living longer and longer and longer. And here's what's interesting about this. I pay attention to stuff like this because this is what I do. If you'd have looked 15 years ago at the list of the oldest living 100 people in the world, they were all over 100, by the way. But what was interesting about it is it was almost no Americans. There might have been one. You look now; it's chock full of Americans. Our parents and grandparents are living longer and longer and longer. They call us the sandwich generation for a reason. Our parents are still alive and our kids are still living with us, and we're taking care of both of them in some cases. Many of you on this workshop know exactly what I'm talking about, and you're dealing with it. And you have my condolences. You don't have my condolences. You have my absolute admiration because it's a big deal to be able to help your family. And I have to tell you, both my parents are gone, and I wish they weren't. But bless you if they are. If they're still here, bless you. All right, here's what we're going to focus on today. How you get benefits. The benefit basics, how it works. We're going to talk about strategies for married couples, options for divorced individuals, options for widows and widowers. Now, if you're single, you're probably going, what about me? First off, Social Security is invented and was arranged for you. It is all about single people. These are the variations on that theme. But you see the next category, taxes. Man, do you have to pay attention. Now, we all do, but taxes are such a big deal. And if you're single, you get hit worse than you might realize. And then why coordinating benefits is so crucial. All right, basics of Social Security. How does it work? You had to work at a Social Security covered job, a place where you paid into Social Security and then your employer matched that. Now, if you're self-employed, you already know the bad news. You paid both your side and the employer side yourself with zero discount. They take the highest 35 years of earned wage income to calculate your Social Security benefit. Here's what I mean. They don't take the first 35 or the last 35 years you worked. They individually pull out year by year the highest 35 years after proration. Meaning, if you worked in 1982 and made $25,000, in today's dollars, that's closer to $120,000. So this year, if you made $100,000, seems like a lot more than 25,000. It's not. In the prorated way that they calculate this, it's less money. And so that year in 82 would have trumped this year. And it wouldn't have been included in 35 if you had a bunch of years that added up to a higher number after proration. Why is this so important? Well, those 35 years are crucial because they take those prorated 35 years, they add them all together, and then they divide by 35 to get your average prorated calculated income. And that number is the number that calculates and is used to determine how much Social Security income you get. Now, why is this important? Well, if you're about to retire and take your Social Security and you have 34 years, here's the bad news. They're going to take those 34 years, they're going to prorate them because it's the only 34 years you have. They're going to add them all together, and then they're still going to divide by 35. If you know much about math, you know if you start adding zeros to a division problem, it's going to dramatically lower the answer, just like it's dramatically going to lower your average income. If you have 32 years, still going to add all those together, but divide by 35. If you have 25 years, add them all together, but still divide by 35. Do you see the problem here? So many people don't realize this. They think they're using average income. Well, they are, but it's based on those 35 years. And if you don't have them, they're still going to fill them in as zeros. This can make a huge difference in how much you take away. And sometimes, before you make that decision to take your benefit, knowing this and giving an opportunity, even to work part time, can make a huge difference in what you actually bring home in Social Security for the rest of your life. Now, you need 40 credits, 10 years. A year equals 4 quarters. A credit represents 1 quarter, January, February, March, April, May, June, and so on, where you this year needed to have $1,890 in earnings to get a credit. If you had 1,800, you don't get the credit. If you had 10,000 in the first quarter, but none in the second, third, or fourth quarter, you only earn 1 credit. You need $1,890 each quarter to get your 40 credits. Now, if you don't have those, then you don't have a Social Security retirement benefit. Once you have them, though, you have a retirement benefit from Social Security. Those 40 credits can be spent. You can have 1 credit per year for 40 years. And as long as it adds up to the 40 credits, you have a Social Security retirement benefit. Most of us work a lot more than that, but you need to be aware that that's how it works. I have seen people retire, and because of the way they worked, they did not equal that, and they retired, tried to claim their Social Security, and it wasn't available to them. Now, don't fret too much. You can always go back and earn those credits, even if you're 70. Now, once you have that, are there any exclusions or reductions in the benefit that may affect you? The answer is there used to be, but last year, January 5th, the Social Security Fairness Act was signed into law, and it sort of took them all away. Now, it's interesting this is called the Fairness Act because it was pretty unfair before that. They used these things like the GPO and the WEP. I'll explain what they were. They affected people who worked for the federal government, who worked for the military, for the railroad, for state, local, county governments, city governments, school districts that opted out of Social Security in favor of their own pension programs. So instead of paying the money into Social Security through FICA, they actually paid it to they took that money and put it into their own pension programs to fund them. And because the school districts or this county or the city didn't pay into Social Security, they funded the other portion of the pension with their portion of that. Maybe some extra too. Probably some extra too. Now, this has been going on a long time, but what happened was the GPO and the WP. Let me explain the WP. It's called Windfall Elimination Provision. It would have provided for, let's say you worked for the federal government for 30 years. You started when you were 22, you retired when you were 52, and then you took a year off. You realized you were pretty young, and it might be nice if you worked a little more before you officially retire. And you got this nice pension, but what the heck? I'll work 10 years and I'll get a Social Security benefit too. So you work. And then you go to retire. And because you only had, say, 10 years of paying into Social Security, the WP, Windfall Elimination Provision, said because you have this pension from the government and you have Social Security from the government, Congress decided that it was right for them to reduce your benefit, not from your pension, they couldn't touch that, but they could just literally cut your Social Security benefit. Not completely, but take a whack at it. Now, the GPO was oftentimes worse. Let's say I worked for the federal government for 40 years. And I have a marvelous pension. And my spouse, well, I'll use my spouse as an example. She worked before we were married. She worked after we were married. But when we started having kids, she wanted to stay home with the kids for a while. What I thought was going to be a year or two turned into much more than that until our youngest kid became, our youngest kid's 41 now, but until our youngest kid became old enough that she was settled in school and my wife felt comfortable not having to be around and help her every minute of the day. So she left and she went back to work. But when she retired, she didn't have 35 years. She didn't have 30. She had much less than that. And as a result, let's say I had that pension, 40 years working in the government, and I might have thought to myself, hey, if something happens to me, she'll get my pension, she'll have her Social Security, she'll be fine. But the government had a different idea. The GPO, or the government pension offset, we like to call it the grumpy partner offset, said, hey, because she didn't have those 35 years, they're going to not just reduce that benefit. If she had very few years, they might just say, hey, keep your pension. We can't touch that, but we're going to take your Social Security completely away. This happened way more often to widows than people ever dreamed it would. And it caused havoc and it caused an uproar. And Congress has been dealing with this for probably 15 years, trying to fix it. Finally, last year, they signed this Social Security Fairness Act. And now, whether she's worked 10 years or she's worked 30 years, she gets to keep every dime of that Social Security going forward. They even paid her back some, or would have paid her back until December of 2023. No more than that, though. Now, this applied to military pensions. It applied to railroad employees with a pension, and state and local government school districts that opted out of Social Security. All were affected by this. They had this problem, and now it's fixed. All right, how does Social Security work? You put in 6.2% of your pay to a maximum of $184,500. Once you max that income out, you don't pay into this anymore. Now, that income is continually being raised. Last year was in the 170s. It's going up. And it's slated to go up to $1 million in 2050s. I don't know exactly what year, but it's going up and up and up. It will eventually get to $1 million. Probably none of us will be around when that happens, and it won't matter to us anyway. But it is going up. Your employer matches that 6.2% with another 6.2% for a total of 12.4%. In other words, 12.5% is 1/8 of your income. Almost 1/8 of your income has gone into the Social Security Trust Fund from the day that you started working. For me, I was 14. Every dollar I've had of income, 1/8 of it almost has gone into Social Security on my behalf. Now, today's benefits, by the way, it's a lot of money. Think about this. Think about how much money you've made over your lifetime. It's a lot of money. Today's contributions cover today's benefits. Basically, Social Security is a pay-as-you-go system. What do I mean by that? The money that you and I contribute to Social Security this month in February of 2026 gets paid out in March of 2026 to people who are receiving Social Security. Period. That's how it works. It's been that way since its inception in 1935. It was created, President Roosevelt signed it into law, and it was created in the middle of the Depression to help old people who were dying on the vine. Now, it took a while, by the way. I think one of the trivia questions we asked tonight is how long did that there? When did the first payment go out? It was in 1940. They had to collect enough money that they could sustainably pay the people who were receiving it. But the people who were receiving it had mostly not contributed to it at all. In fact, when you think about this and you ask the question, who is it created for? It's an interesting thing because Social Security created in 1935, the earliest you could get benefits back then wasn't 62. That didn't happen until the 60s. It was 65. Guess what the average age of death was for an old person in the United States in 1935? It was 63. This was not meant for everybody when it was invented. It was meant for just the people that survived and lived beyond expectations. But boy, has that changed. It's changed dramatically since then. 63 is, most people would say 63 is still young. So be prepared, understand that's how it works, and let's move on. All right. So this brings up the question of solvency. So if the money's going out every month for the money that was collected the month before, that worked in 1935 because it was simple. There was about this many people that qualified. Most of them were dead or gone before 65. And the group, the class of citizens paying into the system was much bigger than the class they were paying for. And then guess what? Baby boomers who were born between 1943 and 1964, they were a whole lot more than the class of people that they paid for. Tons more of them than were receiving benefits. But that brings the question, does anybody know how many millennials there are? 77 million baby boomers, right? There's 81 million millennials. I mean, there's more of them than there are of us, but not by a lot. At one point in, I don't know if it was the 80s, I guess, there was something like 40 people paying in for every check going out. And we amassed huge amounts of money in the trust fund because of that. But now, not so much. And it doesn't get better as we go on. It sort of gets a little worse all the way to about 2050, where it gets the worst that it can be, and then it gets a little better. But this brings up the question of solvency. How does Social Security survive? I'm going to have a very different take on this than you're probably used to. So bear with me, but I get very irritated at people telling everybody that Social Security is about to go broke, because it's not. I've done extensive research and reading on this. Bear with me here. 2010, first year that Social Security was in the red, since 1983. Now, 1983 is a really important year for Social Security and for baby boomers. I call it the target year. What do I mean by that? In 1983 is the year you got the letter. Congress decided to change things, and they sent you a letter. My wife and I got ours on the same day in August of 1983. I remember thinking, why is the Social Security Administration sending us stuff? But when I opened the letter, I understood immediately. It basically said, since its inception, full retirement age, FRA, has always been at 65. But if you're born after 1943, before 1954, that's no longer the case. It's now 66. And if you're born after 1954, for each year you're born after that, add 2 months. So 55, 66 and 2 months, 56, 66 and 4 months, and so on until you reach 1960, where it caps out at 66 and 12 months, or 67. Now, the next day, I was at the water cooler at work and having a conversation, and this letter bothered me. I'll tell you why in a minute, but it bothered me a lot. And we're having a conversation about it. It was a hot topic, and I remember this. It was the first time I ever heard this. Somebody was about 10 feet away, getting a cup of coffee, And they said something snide to us. And what do you care about Social Security? It's not even going to be here when you guys retire. You better start saving now. Have you ever heard that? I I had never heard that before. Boy, have I heard it a lot since. Here's the thing. They were dead wrong. I wasn't sure they were wrong back then, but they were dead wrong. In fact, Social Security is so much better now than it was in 1983. It's sort of ridiculous. But here's the thing. I was still worried, not necessarily only because I was worried if Social Security would survive, but the main thing I was worried about is how many more letters am I going to get by the time I reach full retirement age? Is full retirement age going to be 68, 69, 70, maybe 75? I mean, are they just going to keep pushing this back over and over? Turns out I've never received another letter, and nobody else has either. Here's the thing about this. Solvency is a really interesting issue, but it's very different than you might think, because if Social Security had no trust fund, which it will run out in 2035, we're out of money in the trust fund. But what happens after that? It's still funded by current payrolls, 83 cents on the dollar. Most people, when they're telling you Social Security is in trouble, are making it sound like it's broke completely. It has enough money to pay 83. This isn't a how do we come up with all the money for Social Security? It's how do we come up with 17 cents on the payment every month? There are 4 basic proposals to fix this. Some of them work, some of them don't. Increase the minimum retirement age from 62 to 64 or 5. It helps a little, but it doesn't help very much, actually. Increase full retirement age from 66 or 67 to 70 or 72 helps a little, but not a lot. Here's the one that fixes the problem. Increase the payroll tax. 5 years ago or so, the OMB did a study that said a 1% increase, 0.5% to us, 0.5% to employers, would have fixed this for the next 70 years. Notice Congress didn't do anything about it. It still will fix it. It's going to be more. And the longer it waits before they actually do this, because this is almost certainly what they're going to do. But the longer they wait, the more it's going to be. Our kids are going to pay the penalty for that. I don't know how much it's going to go up, 2%, 3%. It's going to go up something. And then the one that it's flaunted all the time, the one that I get really irritated about because I'm convinced this will never happen, which is reduced benefits. Here's the reason. It's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. 100% backed by the full faith and credit of the United States of America. They can't default on this. It would be like defaulting on every other, like defaulting on T-bills. Our bond system would go, we wouldn't be able to sell a bond internationally for the rest of the century. It would collapse our economic system in the United States. I'm not even talking about the fact that the revolt from seniors would be amazing. It's not going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. They're going to raise the money. I went to a conference last year I think it was in April, in San Diego, not San Diego, in Coronado Bay, California, next to San Diego. It was an exclusive event. 200 advisors were invited nationally. I was honored to be amongst the people that were invited. The group of speakers were phenomenal, people that I listen to and look up to in the industry, people that I've listened to for decades. It was impressive. And they had breakout sessions, and one of those breakout sessions was on Social Security. And I thought, I have to go. So I went, and I'm sitting there. And as the panel walks in, I don't know the moderator, but the first person I recognize, I've heard him speak before. He's a former director of the Social Security Administration. I don't know the next two. The fourth person bringing up the rear is another former director of the Social Security Administration. Interestingly, one from Democrat Party, one from the Republican Party. It was impressive. And the workshop itself was impressive. They spoke beautifully. It was wonderful. But at the end, they did a Q&A, just like I'm going to do tonight. And nobody in the room doubted what the first question was going to be. Everybody knew it was coming, and so did they. It was, what about solvency? What is going to happen? Is Social Security going to cut benefits? Are they going to run out of money? How are they going to deal with the problem? And all of them said the same thing. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. And then one of the Social Security Administration former directors said, look, I don't know how they're going to fix the problem, but I want to point out that during COVID, our government, out of thin blue air, discovered $4.5 trillion to fund any and everything they thought might get us through a few months of the pandemic. They gave money away like it was candy out of thin blue air, and not a small amount, $4.5 trillion. If our government can find that money for something that nobody paid for or saw coming, are you telling me that they can't find it for something that everybody has already paid for? Not going to happen. Not going to happen. So are you going to borrow the money? I don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to fix the problem. After all, it's not 100 cents on the dollar problem. It's a 17 cents on the dollar problem. And it's not that hard to come up with solutions. And then the other administrator said this: Social Security is so steeped in tradition of how they deal with seniors, and its whole mandate can be summed up in one thing: senior citizens don't get less this year than they do last year. And he gave me an example, gave everybody an example. He said this: if your Medicare premium went up $100 in 2027, but your cost of living adjustment only went up $80, technically you would owe $20 more. You'd get $20 less when they deducted it. But that's not what happens. Social Security will literally pay the $20 difference out of their own pocket for your Medicare. They'll just cut the bill so that you never get less than you got the month before, never less than you got the year before, because seniors can't deal with that. That's how they treat senior citizens in Social Security. And that's how it's going to go forward. It's just not something to deal with, not something to worry about, not something to fret about. And one of the reasons I get so irritated at this is there are consequences to thinking that Social Security is not going to be there, or is going to be less, or is going to be cut. I'll talk about those in a second. So how are benefits determined? At full retirement age, you get 100% of your FRA, full retirement age benefit. Now, for some of you, that's 67, or some combination of 66 in some months. If you take it early, you get less. At 62, you don't get 100%, you get 75%. But if you delay, you get these DRCs, delayed retirement credits. 2/3 of 1% per month for every month you delay, 8% for every year that you delay. Mind you, they're stacking. They're not compounding, but they are stacking. So not 8% compounded, but 8% plus 8% plus 8% plus 8% is 132%. Listen to this. The difference between taking it at 62 and getting 75% and taking it at 70 and getting 132% is 177% more benefit. It's like getting the full 66 age benefit plus the 62 age benefit on top of that for waiting the extra 4 years. It's a huge deal. I don't think most people realize that. All right, three distinct benefits. Your own benefit or retired workers benefit, based entirely on your earnings record, nobody else's. A spousal benefit. My spouse, I've been married 49 years, she cannot get her own benefit. I'm sorry, she can get her own benefit, but she cannot get a spousal benefit until I file and am collecting. And I'm not yet because I'm waiting until 70. Very close, but not there. Once I take it, she can get it. But it's based entirely on my earnings record, not hers. She could have never worked a day in her life. She still is entitled to that. Widower, or survivor benefits, again, based on the deceased worker's contributions, not on the survivor's contributions. They're entirely based on the person who passed away. All right, bipartisan budget act 2015. I'm going to go lightning fast through this because I want to make sure I stay on schedule here. This changed Social Security for married couples and divorced spouses, creating 3 sets of rules based on when you were born. It didn't change anything for widows or for single people who've never been married. Now, I'm going to go through this fast because the first 2 sections don't apply anymore. If you're born prior to May 1st, 1950, that's the first class of people with this. And you're already 70, almost 76 years old. If you haven't filed for Social Security, you've made a grievous error. Take care of that tomorrow. If you're born between May 1st, 1950 and January 2nd, 54, you're at least 71 years or 72 years old. And again, you should have filed. Take care of that. But if you're born after January 2nd, 1954, I'm guessing almost everybody here is, then this applies to you. Now, it basically takes away the ability to file what's called a restricted application. That would have been, if you'd have come to me in 2014 or early in 15, I'd have told you go file at 62, but then immediately suspend your benefit. So you wouldn't take it at 62, you just file and suspend. Why? Because that would allow your spouse to walk in the next day and file what's called a restricted application for only the spousal benefit. This would have let them collect the spousal benefit from you, even though you didn't actually start your benefits. They could have collected that benefit all the way to their full retirement age, all the way to let those DRCs on their own benefit accrue to 70, and then switch to a much higher benefit from their own. Same thing. So this is a great way to get extra benefits. This bipartisan budget act of 2015 took all of this away. So why am I spending any time talking about something that doesn't exist anymore? Because of the next thing. When they put this into law in 2015, they added a triggering mechanism called deemed filing. Deemed filing means if you go into Social Security tomorrow to take a benefit, doesn't matter what benefit, you could say, I want a spousal, I want this, I want that. They're going to fill out the application with you, act as if everything's fine, but then they're going to go to their computer and they're going to figure out what the largest benefit available to you on the day that you're filing is. You might say, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that, except that's the benefit you're going to get, whether you want it or not. And once you take it, you can't undo it. You're locked into it. It has locked you into something that may not have been your best bet. And once you're done, you're completely done. Deemed filing takes all the choices away from you. And here's the problem. Most of us walk into Social Security and we ask the most common question Social Security hears every day: how much can I get? Making it seem as if the most important thing is what's the largest benefit I can get today. Not the most important benefit, not the question that you should be asking is, what's the overall best strategy for me to get the most from Social Security over my lifetime? That takes it all away from you and puts it in the hand of some clerk that's going to answer the question for you. All right, for spousal benefits. To qualify for spousal benefits, you must be married for at least 1 full year. The primary worker must have filed. Again, what I was saying before, my wife can't get a spousal benefit from me because I haven't taken my benefit yet. The minute I do, she qualifies. Until I do, she doesn't. Generally, you must not qualify for a benefit on your own that is equal to or greater than 1/2 of the primary worker's PIA. PIA is a fancy term called primary insurance amount. That's the calculation that gets you to your full retirement age benefit. And then you get up to 50% of your spouse's PIA, not the benefit amount, but the PIA. So let's say John's primary insurance amount at full retirement is $2,000. Jane, his spouse, would be eligible for 1/2 at her full retirement age. She'd get $1,000. Pretty simple, right? It's just a half. Well, maybe a little different than that. If you take your benefit at full retirement age, like 66 or 67, you get 100%. If you take it early, you get less. You get at 62, you get 75%. But if you take the spousal benefit early, you get even less. Not 75% at 62, 70%. So here's Jane. John's benefit is $2,000. She gets half of that at her full retirement age, but at 62, she gets 70% of that, not 75. She doesn't get $1,000, she gets $700. Worse, you get these wonderful delayed retirement credits, 8% plus 8% plus 8% plus 8%. You wait till 70, you get 132%. A lot of people have heard about this. More and more, we find spouses delaying taking the spousal benefit because they're assuming that it's going to grow after they reach full retirement age until they reach 70 with those wonderful DRCs. But it doesn't. If you delay taking your full retirement age benefit for a spousal benefit, you are getting nothing for that. In fact, worse than nothing. If you wait a year, we see this happen a lot. People delay thinking it's growing, and then they get their statement the next year and realize it didn't grow. So they call Social Security, and Social Security explains, "Oh, sorry, ma'am, sorry, sir. It doesn't, spousal benefits don't get those DRCs. It maxes out at full retirement age benefit. That's all you get." Oh, well, can I go backwards and claim at my full? No. You can claim on your own benefit. You can go back 6 months almost all the time, sometimes a year. But on a spousal benefit, you can only claim going forward, never backwards. You've just thrown that money away. Not a great way to start your retirement benefit. Bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to take a drink. Okay. All right, survivor benefits. At the death of the first spouse, the surviving spouse can receive a maximum of either his or her own benefit, the benefit of the deceased, or 82.5% of the PIA of the deceased if the deceased filed early. I told you this gets me, this solvency issue gets me. And one of the reasons it gets me is you are sort of being brainwashed and influenced into thinking taking it early is a good thing. I will tell you right now, if I wanted to get 1 million views on a video, all I would have to do is tell people that taking benefits at 62 was the greatest thing since sliced bread. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of videos like that. And you look at how many views, and they're 2 million, 3 million. Sometimes people are want to hear what they want to hear. Sometimes they have been frightened into stuff. And one of the reasons I get upset about this is because of survivor benefits. If you take the benefit early, you aren't just affecting you. If something happens to you and you pass that on to a spouse, they get a smaller benefit. This is happening so much that the Social Security Administration has actually jumped in. Last year and the year before, 40% of Americans took their benefit at the earliest possible time at 62. Now think, you did that, you've locked in this benefit, and then something happens. You get hit by a car, you get a terminal disease, and you pass away. You've locked in a lifetime of lower benefits for your spouse, so much so that the government has now said, we'll take that 75% and we'll bump it up to 82.5%. So it helps out some. It's not 100%, but it's something. All right. Most common mistakes: higher wage earner files early, short change in survivor benefits, just what we were talking about, happens all the time. Both delay past full retirement age. No one claims that spousal benefit and just throws money back into the IRS or the Social Security coffers. All right, divorced individuals. To qualify for divorced spouse benefits, you must have been married for 10 full years in a row to the same person. No stopsies and starties, and no switching partners in the middle of the square dance. 10 years to the same person. You can't currently be married. If you remarry, you don't have divorced spouse benefits anymore. You have a current spouse after 1 year. Period. Same benefit amounts and reductions apply for early claiming as they do for regular spousal benefits. There is no difference between spousal benefits and divorced spouse benefits, with one massive exception. It's called the independently entitled divorce rule, and it is a 2-year rule. So I told you I've been married 49 years. I haven't filed for Social Security. My wife cannot get a spousal benefit until I file. She can file for her own, but she can't get mine. Here's the exception. If we had been divorced for 2 years, that rule no longer applies. She can get the benefit without waiting anymore. It's a huge deal that a lot of people don't know about. All right, bipartisan budget act for divorced couples. Look, no difference here. For people born prior to May 1st, 1950, doesn't apply. For people born after May 1st, 1950, before January 2nd, 54, no matter. You should have filed already. If you're born after January 2nd, 54, the restricted application that we had talked about before for spouse is no longer available to you. But if you're older than your ex-spouse and you're not currently married, you can claim your own benefit as early as 62 and then switch to a larger divorced spouse benefit when your ex-spouse reaches full retirement age. Here's a caveat. This can be done more than once, more than twice, if you have multiple qualifying ex-spouses. Now, I've seen people with as many as 3 that this applied, but look, there's no difference here. It doesn't affect you at all. You can use this as often as you want to switch and make sense. The government will let you do this in any order that you choose to make it most beneficial to you. All right, common questions from those who are divorced. Do divorce benefits affect their current spouse or other dependents? If I file on my ex-spouse, are they gonna get less somehow? The answer is no. Somebody could have a current spouse, 2 ex-spouses, all claiming, all getting the full benefit, doesn't matter. Is my ex notified, or are they not notified if I'm claiming on their record? The answer is they would never know. Just like HIPAA requires your doctor, because of HIPAA, can't share your medical information with anybody without written permission from you. So the Social Security Administration cannot share your information with anybody without written permission from you. Here's the exception to that. If you are a divorced spouse and you can prove with a marriage license and a final divorce decree, they did a 10-year marriage to somebody, they are bound to get the information to you. Not all of it, but enough information so that you know if you can file and what you would receive. And I will tell you that if you walk into Social Security or have an appointment with the clerk and you ask for this and they tell you, oh, no, we can't give you that, set up an appointment with a supervisor. You can get it. It is absolutely something you're entitled to. All right, widows and widowers. To qualify for widow or widower benefits, you must be 60 years old. This is the earliest you can get any retirement benefit. The earliest you can get one on your own is at 62. But you must have remained unmarried from the time that your spouse passed away. So if you have a spouse that died at 35, you cannot get married again before your 60th birthday and qualify for these benefits. But interestingly, you can get married the day after you turn 60 and you still qualify and can receive them while you're married. You had to have been married at least 9 months prior to the death of your spouse. A couple of exceptions to that rule, there are very few. Law enforcement officer of the United States of America killed in line of duty. That would include local law enforcement, any kind of law enforcement killed in line of duty. A member of the armed services of the United States killed in line of duty. Member of a full-time firefighter killed in line of duty. That's it. Other than that, must be married at least 9 months. Okay, I'm going to go through a quick case study here. Really, this is about timing and having a plan. John Never Elected died at 64. Benefit at full retirement age would have been $2,150. His spouse, Jane, 5 years younger, age 59 when John died. She remains unmarried until age 60, so she qualifies. Jane's estimated benefit are on. This is her benefit, not his. She can't get until she's 62. She'd have to wait 2 more years. But that would be $1,197, not the $2,150. So let's take a look. Here are the 3 options. I call the first one file without thinking. Why do I do that? It's because what most of us do is we don't have a plan. We walk into Social Security or we set up Zoom meeting or a phone call and we ask them, hey, what's the largest amount I can get? Well, in Jane's case, the answer to that question is the widow benefit. It's the only benefit you can get at 60. That's not $2,150 anymore, though, because you're taking it at 60. It's reduced. So now it's $1,537. Okay, let's take that. So we're going to assume that Jane lives 25 more years to 85. We're going to do simple math here. No cost of living adjustments or fancy additions, just simple math. 25 more years, 300 months times 1537 is $461,100. Not a small amount. A lot more when we add in cost of living. Strategy 1 says, hey, don't take that. Maybe you've got a job. You're working, making $40,000, $50,000 a year. Work 2 more years. Then switch and take your own benefit. Your own benefit is only $1,197 at 62. But if you take that, and then at your FRA, your full retirement age, you switch to the spousal benefit that's still there, it's gone from $1,537 to $2,104 or $2,150. Sorry, that makes your total benefit almost $80,000 more over your lifetime. Plus, I'm not even counting working for 2 more years at $50,000 a year. It's another 100. Most people agree that strategy 2 might be more interesting. I can't wait, Dave. I don't have a job paying $40,000 or $50,000 a year. I need the money now. All right, then let's take the widow benefit at 1537 a year. We're going to take that all the way to full retirement age. Then we're going to take it all the way to 70. And then we're going to remember something. Remember your own benefit that was 1197 at 62? Well, it's growing all the way to full retirement age. And then it's getting those wonderful 8% DRCs, delayed retirement credits, at 67, at 68, at 69, at 70. And at 70, it maxes out at 2108. That's when you switch. That's when it's higher than 1537. And look at the difference here. You take a total in that way over the course of your lifetime of $563,904, more than almost $63,000 more than if you just took it and forgot about it. Having a plan here, I don't know anybody that can walk away from $100,000 of Social Security or of anything in retirement. I don't care if you got $1 million. I don't care if you got 10. You don't walk away from that kind of money. You plan it out and you do something about it. That's why this is so important. All right. In the year that you turn 62, 63, 64, 65, for some of you it's 66, if you take your Social Security, but you continue to work and you earn more than $24,480, for every $2 over that, they're going to take back $1 of your Social Security. What do I mean? Well, let me give you an example. Let's say you have $24,000 of Social Security, $2,000 a month, but you made $58,000. At the end of the year, you're going to file your taxes. You're going to send them into the IRS. The IRS is going to process your taxes and send a note to Social Security. And Social Security is going to send you, if you did that in April, sometime in July, you're going to get a letter that says, hey, you know that $24,000 that we sent you last year? You owe it all back with interest. Now, maybe you plead ignorance and you tell them that, hey, now I'm fully retired and I don't have that kind of money. I spent it. Maybe I had a big retirement party. Maybe I took a vacation. Maybe I bought a car. I don't know what it is, but you don't have it anymore. That's no problem. We have a great collection system at Social Security. We just stop paying you. Or if you're really lucky, they pay you half until it's paid off, depending on how much you owe. If you saw about 6 months ago, Social Security 60 Minutes did an article on this about people who were caught in this trap. Yes, they got more than they deserved. Yes, it got caught up in this, but the collection message was terrible. And it left people in terrible, terrible straits, some of them bankrupt. This is not a great way to start your retirement. In the year that you turn full retirement age, for some of you at 66, for some of you at 67, you need to be mindful of the fact that there is still a limit. Now, you have to worry about when your birthday is. If you're taking Social Security in January and your birthday is in February, it's probably not going to be a big deal for you because you're probably not going to exceed $65,160 in income prior to your full retirement age. But if you take it in January and your benefit is in November, you might have to deal with this. Now, it doesn't take the $1 for every two, it takes one for every three. But this again surprises people, and you should have a plan. Now, once you reach your FRA, your full retirement age, once you reach any time after that, say the January 1st of the year after it, you can earn a zillion dollars, $1 billion. And there is zero earnings test on that money. You will not pay any of it back because you made too much money after that age. But you will have to deal with taxes. Now, I wish I could ask you to raise your hand and I could see you and ask you how many of you knew that Social Security was taxable before this evening, or before you signed up. I'm always surprised at how many people didn't know. And no surprise, it really wasn't something that anybody has talked about in serious terms that we would know before now, but it's a serious problem. Now, I'm going to tell you why this is such a big deal. Well, let me tell you why I think it's a big deal. You've already paid tax on Social Security. Social Security in 1935, signed into law by President Roosevelt, the bill was actually written by President Roosevelt, was designed to be a tax-free benefit. Why? Because you pay taxes on your contributions to Social Security. Think about this. Do you get a payroll deduction for FICA? No, you don't. You pay tax on that benefit that went into Social Security for you so that you wouldn't pay tax on it when it came out. But in 1983, remember I said what a target year that was for Social Security and baby boomers? That's when this all changed. In 1983, Social Security or Congress took its aim at baby boomers because they were scared to death of us. We had a much bigger generation. They had no idea how to deal with this. And so they changed Social Security in terms of our full retirement age, but they also changed it in terms of taxes. Now, some of you say, well, how hard can it be to figure out taxes and Social Security? Well, this is publication 915. You can get it at irs.com/gov. 915. It's 33 pages long with a worksheet. I would say it's pretty complex. In 1983, Congress designed this chart. If you have not written anything else down this evening, you might want to write this down. This chart is for provisional income. Provisional income. Let me explain how this works, and then I'm going to explain what provisional income is. If you are single and you earn $25,000 of provisional income, then 50% of your Social Security is fully taxable at the highest marginal tax rate you pay. Not first dollar of tax, last dollar of tax. Highest marginal tax rate you pay. If you're single and you earn $34,000 of provisional income, 85% of your Social Security fully taxable at the highest marginal tax rate you pay. Now, there's this wonderful line, 2,752 pages of Social Security in the bill, current bill. 83 pages of that is taxes. There's this wonderful line in there. Sometimes if I need a laugh some days, I will look it up and read it because it says, we never tax 15% of your Social Security. I just find that it makes me giggle. It's a joke, but they mean it. If you're a couple, married couple, filing jointly, separately, doesn't matter, head of household, your combined income of provisional income is $32,000, then 50% of your Social Security fully taxable at the highest marginal tax rate you pay. If you earn $44,000 of provisional income, 85% of your Social Security fully taxable at the highest marginal tax rate you pay. Highest marginal tax rate, not the 10% you pay on the first $12,000. It's the 22 or 24 or 35% that you pay on the last dollar of your income. I would guess 90% of us fall into those categories. All right. Look, in 1983, when this was created, well, I've said a couple times they targeted baby boomers. Let me tell you why. If your grandparents had $44,000 of provisional income in 1983, they were amongst the highest 2% income earners in retirement in the country. They were wealthy. Wealthy. They were doing great. So why is this so bad now? Because this has never been prorated. It was never intended to be prorated. It was set and targeted at baby boomers, and they let time do its work. And boy, it has. In fact, if this had been prorated, I would not be talking about it. If this had been prorated at exactly the same rate that Social Security has been adjusted for cost of living, this 44,000 that you see would be 142,000. And I wouldn't be talking about it at all. I would say, yeah, I get it. Okay, I told you I would tell you what's inside of provisional income. So let me do that. What's included? Your W 2 income, all your gross income, all your pensions. I don't care what kind of pension you have, military, private pensions, disability pensions, you name it, it is included. All wages, all interest, all tax exempt interest. Maybe you're buying municipal bonds to try and lower your tax bill in retirement. Good for you. But all of that income still counts as provisional income. All 1099 income, any separate labor income, any commission income, anything like that. All real estate income. Some of you have done a really great job of using real estate to shield income, to spread it out, to use the benefits of a Schedule E form to prorate and not prorate, but um, take depreciation off of your income over time. But every bit of your rental income on your Schedule E before depreciation counts as provisional income. All business income. Maybe you've got a small business or a partnership, or you own part of a small business. And at the end of the year, you get what's called a K1 for your represented share and the income of that business. Sometimes you take that money, sometimes you don't. Sometimes the company keeps the money to do an investment or to expand or hire employees or do something, but you got the K1 anyway. A lot of times that isn't counted, but provisional income counts at 100% one way or the other. Maybe you're like my son and daughter-in-law, or my son-in-law and daughter, who overpay their taxes every year. They take less deductions than they're entitled to. I don't think they take any deductions. And then at the end of the year, they file their taxes and they get a big whopping tax return. And they do that because they're able to chunk a bunch of money away and use it. I've seen them put a roof on the house. I've seen them do home improvements. I've seen them buy a car. I've seen them take big vacations with the kids. It doesn't matter what it is. All of that money that comes to you in the tax refund this year is fully counted as provisional income. Here are the interesting ones. Maybe you have an IRA, a 401k, a 403b, a 457, a 401a, or any tax deferred account, a SEP, a SERP, a SLRP, any tax deferred account, or you put money in tax deferred. You didn't pay tax on it. You got a tax break on it, and then it grows tax deferred, but when you take it out, it's fully taxable. That money, when you take it out, counts 100% as provisional income. Now, some of you are going, wait a minute, Dave. My advisors have told me I should pour money into those programs because when I take the money out, I'll be doing it in a lower tax bracket and I'll save taxes. And I say to you, they may not have thought this through the whole way. In fact, in retirement, you might be paying the same or even higher tax bracket than you were when you were working. After all, most of your deductions are gone. After all, the whole system that you had was geared to not well look, even if your status quo, what if pouring all that money into 401ks and IRAs is going to force you to pay tax on something that you were never supposed to pay tax on in the first place, called Social Security? They may have just put you in the biggest trap of your financial life. And if you don't know, There are horror stories about how this is absolutely killing people in retirement. It's tearing their finances apart, it's tearing their plans apart, and it is causing serious, serious problems. Oh, by the way, let me give you the last one. You'll enjoy this. 50% of your Social Security income counts as provisional income. That's right. 50% of the money, they're trying to see if you make too little that we shouldn't charge you tax on it. They're adding it in just to see if they can push you over and get you to pay tax on it. 50%. So let's imagine you're making $3,000 a month and your spouse is making two. That's 5,000 a month. That's 60,000 a year. Half of that is $30,000. You're already there without anything else. You're right there. This is just changing retirement for people. And if you don't have a plan around this, you might want to look into one really quickly. I'm running a little behind, so let me get to this case study. I think this is the single most important one I'm going to talk about this evening. This is a very typical couple, age 64 and 62, just over 34,000 in combined annual Social Security income. If they both file at 62, they want to retire at 62. Why? They've saved 752,000 in 401ks and IRAs. They got $750,000. Now, some of you are saying, that's it? That's all they got? And I say to you, this couple that only has 752,000 has a serious tax problem. And some of you are saying, that's a crap load of money, Dave. And I say to you, this couple with $750,000 has a serious running out of money problem too. Let me show you what I mean. We're going to give their return 6% return, 3% inflation. They need $70,000 per year in inflation adjusted after tax income. We're going to say they're going to live to 86 and 89 respectively. What does this look like? If they file at 62, they're walking away from $186,496 of Social Security. And folks, they need every nickel of that. They're just saying, hey, I don't need it. They've earned this, by the way, but the way they're taking their Social Security, they're saying, I don't want it. I don't need it. That's not my plan. Now, don't misunderstand me. I understand they want to retire early. I'm not telling you they can't. This is what a cash flow looks like. The blue bars are their Social Security. The orange bars, that's the $752,000 in 401ks and IRAs. The graded line that you see, that's the $70,000 in inflation adjusted income, after tax income. And at the end of the orange bars, that white space is nothing. There is nothing there. They run out of money. This couple started with $750,000. They retire at 62, and 2/3 of the way through retirement, they have reached a nightmare. They're living on Social Security alone. Remember when I said 46.1% of us end up without any money? We're dead broke. We don't have enough to pay for our own funeral. This couple started with $750,000. That's where they're at. Now, don't misunderstand me. They're going to survive. This isn't, they're broke. They have Social Security, but they are going to live a very different lifestyle for the next 13, 14 years. A very different lifestyle. Let me show you the alternative. I'm going to show you a corrected cash flow. I want to make a point of letting you know that what we've done on the next page is nothing other than change the way that they're taking their Social Security. We're not changing investment mode. We're not raising their internal returns. We're not doing anything other than changing the way they file for Social Security. Couple has filed, oops, there we go. This couple has done everything the same here, except they're still retiring at 62. But guess what they're doing? See that orange money, the orange bars? They're spending down the 401ks and the IRAs first. That money they've never paid tax on. There's no way to avoid paying tax on that. They're going to pay tax. Doesn't matter whether they take it early or late. But the blue bars, they've paid tax on already. By taking the blue bars early in the first scenario, they're going to pay tax on both. 85% of their Social Security is going to get taxed. 100% of the 752 is going to get taxed. This way, that's not happening. Look at the difference here. This is just a little planning, folks. There's lots of other things we could do for this couple, but this is just Social Security planning. And it's saving them hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's making their portfolio last another 14 years. It's getting them another $186,000 of Social Security. It's changing their lives. By the way, if they don't run out of money, it's more than $100,000 less in federal taxes. It's a huge difference. I don't know how to express that more than I can. If you don't have something that's looking at this, out projecting what's going to happen to you, and it's not including Social Security, it's not including taxes, it's not looking at this from a standpoint of planning and making sure you don't hit these pitfalls, you don't have a retirement plan. Look, your statement has no cost of living applied. It's never going to do that. Social Security will never tell us going forward. Until October, we won't know what it's going to be next year. But they'll never tell us the year in advance. We need that projection to have any kind of ability to do planning. Your statement also assumes that you're working to one of three static ages, your FRA, age 70, or age 62. Most of you aren't going to take one of those. And then it may be the most egregious thing at all. I've been married 49 years. My wife and I have joint accounts on everything. We own a house together. We own cars together. We have investment accounts together. We have bank accounts, savings accounts. It looks at her and me like we don't know each other. Like financially, we're two ships that are passing in the night. That coordination has to exist to have any kind of plan, and it cannot offer you advice. Social Security, first day of orientation, a new Social Security employee is taught they can't give you advice. AARP says whether you're close to or retiring or you're just turning 50, you should check your Social Security earnings record each year to make sure it doesn't contain errors. It's also important to be aware there's a statute of limitations on some of those corrections. You should not wait till the last minute. All right, every time I do one of these workshops, I do the same thing. I always do this. I'm going to do it tonight. I always offer a complimentary personal Social Security analysis and tax analysis. I'm going to give you something incredibly valuable for free. I'm going to tell you what that is. I'm going to tell you who's going to do it for you. And then if you'll bear with me before I do the Q&A, I'll explain why we do it. So bear with me. What does it include? Of course, it includes the break-even points. This is a complex thing, but it's not the most important thing to look at. But it is something. It's easy to use and implement. We'll give you a plan and we'll show you how to work it. It'll look at the alternatives and the shortfalls. What if I'm coming up short? How do I make that up? What are my options? It'll look at the alternatives. Hey, I don't like this. Dave, can you look at it this way? Yeah, absolutely. I'll show you what that looks like. And then it'll look at retirement income, cash flow, and tax analysis. How do I save money in taxes? How do I do it? When should I do it? How much should I do of it? And then it'll look at income planning and assessment. Am I assessing my income for too much in retirement? Am I assessing my income for too little? and retirement. Both of those are huge problems. We'll tell you exactly where you're at. And then what about Roth conversions? Should I be doing them? The one thing I didn't mention on the list of provisional income is Roth. Roth does not count in the provisional income category. So, should I have some? Should I have a lot? How much? And when should I do it? How do I know I'm not putting too much in the Roth? How do I make sure that I'm not overpaying in taxes by setting up Roth accounts and setting myself for a better retirement? What's the limit? And then how do I coordinate benefits? So, if you don't have something that's looking at everything and combining them all and looking at all those accounts, your Social Security benefits, your taxes, your non-qualified, qualified assets, your IRAs, your 401ks, your pension programs, life insurance, TSPs, any asset that you're going to use in retirement, and is coordinating them all together to make sure you're using them in the right order at the right time. That's what's necessary for a good retirement. All right. If you haven't done this already, go to www.ssa.gov. You'll be able in about 5 minutes to download your statement. And then I'm going to give you two choices for options for this analysis tonight. So bear with me. I'm going to explain both of them, and then I'm going to tell you who's going to do this for you. Option one is everything I just said. It's the complete filing strategy, the tax strategy overview, the retirement asset and Social Security coordination, a total focus on taxes and retirement. It is the whole kit and caboodle. It's incredibly valuable. We're giving that to you completely complimentary this evening. I'll explain why in a minute. But this is everything that you need. So if you have assets, any kind of complex assets, any 401ks, IRAs, any kind of tax deferred accounts, if you have significant other accounts that you are going to use that you need some planning on, this is what does that. Now, some of you don't have that. You don't have a tax problem because you don't have assets like that. In fact, the biggest single thing you're going to do in retirement is use your Social Security. If the only income you have in retirement is your Social Security, you will not have a tax bill. They're only going to count that for half. So unless you have other income coming, pensions or things like that, you don't have a tax problem. If you don't have 401ks or IRAs that you're going to pull out and need to know how to order those and make sure that you're not overpaying, you don't have a tax problem. What you need is something that will help you with the timing question. When should I file? That's the workbook. I told you I designed a workbook. I think I'm on my 7th edition or 8th edition of it. It's gotten tons of reviews. People love it. It is complimentary to you this evening. That's option 2. So if you don't have a tax problem, if you don't have assets like that, you don't need that coordination. You need a timing answer. And that's the workbook. It's simply option 2. All right, I told you I would tell you who's going to do this evening. Let me do that, and then I'll tell you why we're doing it, and then we're going to do the Q&A. I'm going to go pretty quick, and I apologize, but I'm a little over, and I want to be mindful of your time. I've asked a really good friend of mine, somebody who works for me. His name is Taylor Cox. Taylor is exceptional. Taylor's a bachelor in business administration and a master's as well. I don't know if you know this, but in our world of advisors that work in the RIA space, the registered investment advisory space, less than 5% have a master's of business administration, an MBA. It's rare. It is not common. But I think Taylor's way more impressive than that because after his degree, Taylor went to work for the IRS as an analyst. He is so well versed in tech. No, there's nobody in our organization, nobody I know that knows and understands taxes and retirement better than he does. It's what he did. I mean, he is so good at this, it's ridiculous. But he left the IRS after a while to work in the finance world. He has always wanted to do what he does now, but he took a stepping stone and worked for a Fortune 500 company as an analyst and writer. He wrote for financial magazines that if I name them, you would know. I don't want to name drop, but you would know them. You would recognize them. They're famous. But he was so significantly and so well versed in taxes and retirement that he was paid to write articles that you've probably read. But then he wanted to get into our world to help individuals, to make a difference in people's lives. And he has done that at an incredible pace. Now, he's earned an APMA. That's it's a designation from the College of Financial Planning. It's an accredited portfolio management advisor. It it's the meat and potatoes of investment management. He also carries a CRPC, a Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor. Again, another designation about retirement planning from the College of Financial Planning. He also carries the same designation that I do, the NSSA, the National Social Security Advisors designation, the only college accredited designation for Social Security and taxes in the country. Now, on top of all that, he has a Series 65, a FINRA designation that makes him a fiduciary advisor. Now, our company operates solely as fiduciaries, but we only have employees that have designations that require them to act as a fiduciary advisor. Why? Because that's what we do. Because it's so important for us to do and have that kind of a relationship. Um, look, he has trained himself. I think if you meet with Taylor, I think you're going to find something really extraordinary. Taylor has trained himself to be what I call an active listener. He's going to have a conversation with you. He's going to dig in, but he's going to hear what you're saying and how you're saying about things so that he's going to be able to ask questions that get you to tell him exactly what you're thinking, sometimes in ways that you are surprised. He's so good at this. He's so comfortable to talk to. He is a gift. I will tell you, um, it's probably odd for a business owner to say that we're fortunate to have an employee, but we are fortunate to have him. He is such a gift to us and to you that I want you to take advantage of this. Now, I'm going to ask our tech team to open the chat and put in the link. There it is. You already did it. That is the just hit that sendworkbook.com. That will take you to a couple of questions that you'll fill in. You'll pick option one, which is the meeting with Taylor, or option two, which is the workbook. If you pick the meeting, it will take you to his calendar. You'll be able to put yourself right in. You'll have a meeting just like I'm having with you right now, except he'll be able to see you and you'll be able to see him, and you can have that conversation that gets you in and digs you into that. Now, I told you I would tell you why we're doing this, and then I'm going to make that short and sweet, and then we're going to open up and do the Q&A. So if you haven't typed in your question, this is the time to do it. But let me tell you why we do this. Look, I'm a Costco fanatic. I love Costco. It's not close to us. It's completely on the other side of town for us. I'd probably pass 4 or 5 places that I could shop to get there, but I love it. And I push my wife to go on Saturdays, which is crazy, she tells me. But I love Saturdays at Costco because if I walk in, every nook and cranny of that store is filled with somebody cooking, frying, microwaving something that I probably haven't tried before. And I'm a try it before I buy it kind of guy. I like to go and sample stuff. My wife and I have a system. She looks at me. She doesn't even look and see what I'm trying. She just looks at me. And if I get a big smile on my face, she says, okay, we'll take one. And if I nudge her, she goes, okay, we'll take two. It's how I find new stuff. It's how I find it because if I try something and I like it, I want more. That's what we're doing here. We're taking you to Costco. The difference is I think you're going to be the most impressed with Taylor as anybody you've ever talked to about finance in our industry. He is, I think, going to blow you away. And that's why we do this. We know that if you see what, if we exceed expectations, if we do exactly what I say we're going to do, but we just blow it away, we just amaze you at how good he is and what he does, we think you might want to do more. That's it. Look, I have over 1,200 client accounts. We have clients in 43 states. I've built this company from scratch, doing this, overperforming at every level, and then letting people decide if they want more. We think you will. I hope you will. I know one thing: you're going to get something that's incredibly valuable, and you're going to appreciate it. I absolutely am sure of that. Look, there was this guy. I'm a movie buff, and there was this guy in the 70s that was in this movie called The Paper Chase. It was about law students at Harvard, and his name was John Housley. He played a Professor Kingsley, the contract law professor at Harvard, and he was English and he was hard. Everybody thought he was the hardest professor there. But afterwards, he in the 80s, he did these commercials, and he had this line in this old English accent, sort of stodgy, a little snuffly, but he would go, "We get business the old-fashioned way. We earn it." That's what I'm trying to do. Look, if I don't earn your business, then I don't deserve it. But if I earn it, if I do way more than you're expecting and way more than you ever thought was possible, then I have a right to say, wow, we've done a great job for you. And you have the right to say, maybe we should talk some more. That's it. That's it. All right. If you've chosen, I see a lot of people have chosen to meet with him, and I appreciate that. I think you're going to enjoy it immensely. I'm going to ask our tech team to pull up the Q&A. Thank you for sticking with me. Literally, almost everybody is here that was here during the workshop. So appreciate that. All right, here we go. Stephen, a person is working in a relatively good paying job in IT above IRMA threshold. IRMA is the Medicare threshold for paying extra, and starts Medicare insurance at age 67 or older without a pension. How does a person prove that they had a significant event, retirement, that decreases income? Well, you have to appeal if that's the case. And I'm assuming, Stephen, that your income has gone down below the threshold. If it has, then you can appeal that and say, hey, I had an event, I retired, and this doesn't apply anymore. And they will likely waive it as long as you've retired. But they typically they don't raise the threshold till the year afterwards. So you won't. I don't think you'll see that until the year afterwards. But um, I've had to deal with this as well. It's not easy, but you have to actually reduce the income. But then it's just an appeal process with a request for the single retirement, the single uh, exceptional event, significant event, and you'll say it's retirement. It's pretty easy. Great question. All right. Next question. JP, at what age do they begin counting towards benefits? Some of us began working early, but I noticed the Social Security Administration website that many of my earlier working years are not included. How did I fix that issue? Well, you'd have to you'd have to have proof that you worked during those years. I would start by getting what's called a 4506T. So if you know what year is missing, you go to the irs.gov website, you download the form 4506T, you fill it out and you send it to the IRS. They will send you your tax transcript for that year, and then you'll forward that to Social Security and they will correct it. If that doesn't show up, you're going to have a much harder time. So if that income wasn't reported to the IRS, perhaps your employer or it was paid cash or something like that, that can be a problem. And there's really no way to fix that, not at this point. But if it's reported, that's the answer, the 4506T. Great question. All right, let's move on. Okay, this is JP. Oh, as you begin receiving higher amounts, when you reach the higher age, would income increase to age 67 rate if you started collecting at age 64? Theoretically, yes. In reality, probably not. So with proration, you have to have a year that's beating one of the 35 years that's your largest income. If it does, it will correct, but I will tell you, it's exceedingly rare. But great question. All right. Via, I'm single, 65 in May. Have only worked since 2005, moved here from Denmark, am a US citizen. Should I wait as long as possible to retire? Yeah, so at most you have 20 years. Every year you wait is another year that fills in one of those 35. So the longer you wait, it absolutely helps you tremendously. I would wait absolutely as long as you can, at least until you reach 70 if you can make it that. 5 more years is a big difference for you in terms of your overall return, what you get. Great question. Okay. Uh, okay. I am semi retired. I am 68 years old, 10 months. I am waiting until 70 to draw Social Security. Wife is 66 years and 9 months. Should she take Social Security now? And when she turns 67 in 3 months, it will increase to half of my amount when I draw it at 70. So yeah, she can take her own. Let me tell you, the only complex thing here, Nos, is that um, the half of yours has to be more than all of hers. It if it is, if 50% of your full retirement age benefit is more than her benefit, her own benefit, then she can switch when that happens. And it works perfectly. Um, I will tell you, if you take yours first, she won't have a choice. She's going to have to take that. If it's more, she's going to have to take that in lieu of her own benefit. But if you haven't taken it, she has that choice and it works out fine. It's just that when you retire, her 50% of your benefit, your full retirement age benefit, has to be more than the benefit she's receiving for her to be able to switch. Great question. Okay. Oh, added to the previous question, would it benefit me to marry my boyfriend of 8 years? He's retired now, are 68 years old. That's a good question. I can't answer that without knowing his benefit amount, your benefit amount, whether or not a spousal benefit, which would not be eligible for until at least one full year of marriage, would make a difference. Here's where it might make a difference. If his benefit is significantly higher, if you're married and something happens to him, you would inherit his full benefit. That could be a huge benefit to you. But without knowing those benefits, I can't advise you as to whether that would make sense or not. It could, depending on what his benefit is and what yours is. Great question, though. All right, next question. Here we go. John, what counts towards provisional income? I'm hoping that you answered that before I got to it, but basically everything except Roth. Every bit of income, including 50% of your Social Security. Michael, is income from Roth conversions included in provisional income? No. Roth is the exception to that. It does not count. Everything else counts. Okay. Stephen, Roth IRA and Roth 401k, does it count towards provisional income? No. Great. Same question as last one. No, it does not. All right, JP, would the reduction of 1-for-2 or 1-for-3 ratio of earned income apply if working full time and able to collect only widow's benefit? Yeah, it still applies. If you're working and collecting any retirement benefit, including the widow's benefit, that $1 for every two or the $1 for every three still counts, 100%. All right, Bonnie, are the other classes in the future on this, or can be attended again? On this, can be attended again? Yeah, you can join us anytime. Sometimes we don't just do these; we do other things. But you're welcome to attend anytime. Bonnie, is there a replay that I can watch on this? Yeah, if you just use the link that you used to climb on here for this meeting, after this meeting, it'll be up for certainly the rest of this night, sometimes tomorrow morning, some. You can just replay it then and do the whole thing. Thank you for that question. All right, the conversation income, maybe money. Okay, Michael Mahoney, is income from Roth conversions included in provisional income? Yeah. So the money that you're converting, you're taking it out of a 401k or an IRA and paying taxes on it, 100% counts as provisional income. Yes, it does. That's why Roth conversions need a plan, serious plan. It's one of the things Taylor does better than anybody I know. Okay, next question. Yeah. I've already said that distributions from Roths don't count as provisional income, but conversion money does. Pamela, my family and I are involved in a large class action lawsuit that may be paying out soon. Is it wise to speak with Mr. Taylor Cox? What should I do to protect the payout and not hurt my Social Security? Yeah, absolutely. I would suggest you do. He's good at that. And some serious financial advice before that happens is always smart. Okay. Does inheritance count as provisional income? No, it does not. It's not income. It is not income. Thanks for that question. Okay, thank you so much. My alarm goes off at 3 a.m. I need to drop out. I've ordered the workbook. Thanks for your guidance. No, you're probably absolutely welcome. All right. Would you suggest switching IRA to a Roth? Yeah, that's exactly what you want Taylor to go through with you and figure out. And you want to do it if the answer is yes, and it could be. If the answer is yes, you want to plan so as not to pay more tax than you have to accomplish that. Tax planning is such an important part of retirement planning. So the answer is I absolutely suggest that you have a meeting with him. It's complimentary, and this is exactly why you would need that conversation. Stephen, I had volume issues and didn't hear I answered to my question about proof to avoid IRMA surcharge when person retires. Yeah, so you need to appeal, which means you need to go to the to Social Security with a letter and tell them you have a typically they don't raise for about a year after the event happens or after you file your taxes. You'll get a notice, but you need to go to them and present a letter, an affidavit on your part saying that you had a significant event and that you retired and that your income is not continuing, and ask them to waive it. And I would say it's rare for them not to do that in that circumstance. Kevin, I'm sorry I missed the first half hour. Did you speak about IRMA, specifically how someone expects to pay IRMA in retirement when the income is no longer? What is the 2 prior years before retirement? Yeah, they look at the 2 prior years. And if you, I think this is the question that somebody else was asking just before this, you can appeal that if it's stopped. If not, it's going to continue and you're going to pay it. This is one of those things I would suggest. This is a conversation you might want to have with Taylor. He can work out specific things to try and keep that income from a certain amount so that you're not in that category, particularly in a retirement circumstance. IRMA can be a killer. So it's worth a conversation. But that's just typical retirement planning. Great question, Kevin. Pamela, could you repeat how to arrange an appointment with Mr. Cox, please? Open up either the link or go to the QR code that you see on the screen. QR codes are easy. You just hold your camera up to them and press that little yellow triangle. Don't take a picture. Just press the triangle or not triangle, the rectangle or the square that pops up. It'll take you right to the link. It'll ask you a few questions. You'll ask for option one, and then once you've opted, you've given the information, ask for option one. It'll take you right to Taylor's uh, uh, calendar, and you'll have a choice to pick what time and date you want to sign up for. Great question, Pamela. It takes about 3 minutes. If you have trouble with the QR code, you can use the link that is in the chat box at the end, or you can take a screenshot of the QR code and then open up the screenshot and touch it, and it'll open up for you as well. JP, I'm currently I'm 62 and 3 months. My husband passed away at 46 years and 11 months. Can I collect the widow benefit now and then switch to my own benefit later, or at FRA? Yeah, the answer is yes. You absolutely can. You could have done that as early as age 60. JP, I too have ordered the workbook. Thank you kindly for the informative workshop. Truly appreciate it. You're welcome. Kevin, great seminar. Thank you. Good night. Good night. Good night. I think that's the last question we've got on here. Pamela is saying thank you. We appreciate that, Pamela. All right. If you haven't done this, please, I suggest while Taylor's calendar is open, he's super busy, but he has opened this up so that you can get in there, take advantage of it while it's available to you. I will bid you good night. good planning. May you all have a wonderful, wonderful retirement. Thank you, and we'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.